She went under the wheels.
How affected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And today we're bringing back our old podcast mate, Austin.
I think you forgot to mention co-founder of the podcast and main person who got this going.
That is true. I guess that's true. Yeah, we got a random.
Bring me all the fanfare. My life, I'm constantly bombarded by angry commenters.
You're right. Co-founder and principal reason why this podcast exists, Austin.
Hello.
Who I
am
guess
back.
already made his introduction.
Yes.
He is back.
I am back.
Welcome back.
I can't promise I will be a reoccurring contributor, especially when the various sports return. But I will do my best to pop in from time to time.
From time to time. I always think of Goodwill Hunting.
Turn off your damn vibrator, dude.
Who are you talking to?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I heard
know.
a freaking loud vibrate, dude. We're recording.
Was that your?
That wasn't
your-
me.
It wasn't me. Okay,
I'm
whatever.
literally-
Are you sure it wasn't your wife's vibrator? So we're glad to welcome you back, Austin. Normally I say on today's episode we are going to be discussing something, but really today, because it's been so long since we recorded episodes, I think we're just going to use the whole episode to talk about what we've been watching.
Well, yeah, not just it hasn't been long since we recorded something. We haven't really talked at all. Matt, I haven't seen you in like over a year. Gabe, I haven't seen you since the wedding, I don't think. Oh, no.
No,
we
we watched McGregor Cowboy.
When the hell was that? Was that still 2019?
That was 2020.
Time is standing still. But also moving incredibly fast.
Yeah, I
weird.
know. It's actually, I did get a notice that I'm going to be working from home at least till September. And I'm like, oh, in June. Okay, wow, that's that's good to know.
Cool. Well, yeah. No, that's all exciting. When are you coming to visit California again so we could do Under the Wheels reunion proper?
Probably when the state opens up again.
Orange County's open up, dude. Do whatever the hell you want
Has
here.
it?
Yeah.
So my issue is that like planes are already a cesspool of germs and disease, and then you add in something like COVID-19 into that, and it just becomes like the last place I ever want to go for an extended period of time.
Hey man, I managed to squeeze in a 4-day vacation in New York right before they went straight to hell.
Oh wow, yeah,
I
you
can't
just
believe-
freaking
I can't
you dodged
believe
a
you're
bullet
still-
there.
I can't believe you survived. That was one of the episodes too.
Yeah, no, it's like the day my flight left for New York City, they had their very first case, and then the day I came back from New York City, it like blew up to 100, and then obviously it just increased exponentially from there.
Yeah.
Dude, when everything went crazy, so you know how like it hit its tipping point when Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz, when he tested positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was
touched all the microphones and made out with all of his teammates.
Yeah, I was at a concert at the Forum with Heather, like the day that everything went down. I thought they were gonna come out and be like, "Yo, we gotta postpone this," but luckily we were able to stand shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of people, and we did not get sick, and we were able to do something fun right before everything shut down.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's been a very interesting ride.
Well, Austin, you said you've been getting like more and more pent up and angry, and I'm guessing a good part of that is not just that you've been missing out on talking with us on the podcast, but also because we've all been stuck inside for like 3 months.
I mean, it's definitely
What, 3 months now?
multifaceted. It's like not having your own place, being stuck inside, like not being able to do anything. Like I work from home to begin with, so I'm always stuck at home. So having to be stuck at home even more is not fun. It'd be one thing like if I was working somewhere for the last few months and then I came back and then I was able to work from home for a few months. It'd probably be kind of nice. Like, oh yeah, I always have to work, like go somewhere to work. It's nice to work from home. But it's like, no, I'm working from home probably for the rest of forever. So at least for the foreseeable future.
Right.
So I don't get any added benefit, and like I don't get any time off work, which I know a lot of people didn't really get any time off. But yeah, it's a grind, but getting there.
At the very least, you probably had a lot of time to watch stuff. So what have you been watching lately, Austin?
I haven't been watching a ton of stuff because the wife is always home too, and she doesn't really like to watch movies that much. So, but I've been. So I watched The Invisible Man. I watched The Lodge, and then gosh, can't even think of what else I've watched.
How was Invisible Man?
Invisible Man was great.
This is the new one, right? The one with Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah. No, I loved it. Yeah, no, it was really good.
Is it worth like the pay-per-view or whatever that you have to pay for it?
$20 for 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really wanted to watch it, and it was on sale on Amazon for $15 just to buy it outright. So I was like, I mean, it has really good reviews. Like, I'm assuming it's gonna be good. $15 is how much you would pay to go see a movie anyway. So
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll buy it, and if I want to watch it again, I can.
Mississippi.
But I'm gonna say something controversial.
What a surprise.
To start the podcast. I think Lee Winnell? Is that how you say it? Lee Winnell? However you say his name. I think it's Winnell. Lee Winnell. I think he has surpassed his buddy James Wan as a filmmaker already.
Really?
I think Upgrade and Invisible Man are up there with the Conjuring movies, if not better. And I think his style, I like his style. Like, it's interesting to me because he started as a writer of like Saw movies. And then his first movie was Insidious.
And Star.
Yeah, and Star. And then his the first movie he directed was Insidious Chapter 3, which I didn't like very much. And I thought it was just one of those things like, okay, James Wan's buddy, he writes all his movies. Like, he's going to help him out and let him direct a movie. And I saw Upgrade, I was like, whoa, this is actually like, this is like a creative, like, it's a creative movie, it's got some style, like, this is actually really good. And then Invisible Man is just, it's shockingly well directed for a guy who spent most of his career just writing.
Schlock.
Yeah, no, not just writing. This isn't like freaking Aaron Sorkin. Well, I haven't seen his directorial debut, so I don't know. But this isn't like an acclaimed writer. This isn't like a better example, Charlie Kaufman. This isn't like Charlie Kaufman making all these writing all these Academy Award winning movies and then directing a movie. This is like the guy who created the Saw franchise.
This is like that time Michael Crichton directed a few movies.
Yeah. But
or when Stephen King did. Didn't he direct like Maximum Overdrive or something?
Stephen King, yes, I've seen Maximum Overdrive, and it's pretty great. And like the most, it's so funny to me that that's the one movie Stephen King has directed because it's like it's so schlocky. And I'm like, you've written all of these books, and like you didn't even write, because I think Maximum Overdrive was an original screenplay. I don't think it was a book. I think it was just he wrote the screenplay and then directed the movie. I'm like, so you didn't even want to adapt one of your books. You just wanted to make your own like ridiculous movie starring Emilio Estevez.
I was going to say, his books, a lot of them are pretty schlocky as well. I mean...
Yeah.
No, for sure.
He had that whole string of like, it's a haunted car that kills people. Ooh. And then,
Yeah, I just, like, I don't know. It's just a little... I feel like he's pretentious enough to... I don't know Stephen King, but I'm assuming he's pretentious enough to be like, oh, when I direct a movie, I'm going to make an amazing classic. I know he's not. He doesn't have an accent. He's a pretty normal sounding dude. He's like, no.
I'm Stephen King and I have the mid-Atlantic accent.
I'm the most famous horror writer in the history of the world. I'm going to make a schlock movie about cars torturing people trapped in a gas station.
Well, I mean, he's a writer. He understands medium, so maybe he's like, oh, the best medium is like fast cars, lots of violence, and Emilio.
No, it's not fast cars. It's freaking semi trucks. It isn't even like, oh, I'm gonna get a bunch of freaking Camaros and Mustangs. It's like, no, they're gonna just be trapped by a bunch of freaking semi trucks.
Peterbilt was like, you know what, you can have. We're sending out the new line instead of just blowing them up, throw them in a movie.
Speaking of Stephen King, did Dr. Sleep come out this year?
I think it came out last
2019.
Year.
Did it? Let's see.
I think the extended cut, came out this year.
Yeah, Dr. Sleep is a 2019 film. Yeah.
Because it came out around Halloween.
Yeah, it was November, so it was late 2019. Dr. Sleep was awesome. I love Dr. Sleep. I think the idea of it was stupid, and I hated it. But Mike Flanagan's got to be up there with like the best horror filmmakers right now, which is interesting to me because he kind of started off making schlock movies, like not necessarily schlock, but they were very like low budget. Like he did that movie Hush, where it was the deaf girl being like attacked by the guy with the white mask, like. And then he did like what Ouija Origin of Evil. So we could qualify that as schlock.
Yeah,
but no, Ouija
Hush
Origin of
is
Evil
pretty
is
well
good.
regarded.
What would you say?
I was saying Hush is pretty well regarded.
No, Hush is good. No, I'm not saying like he made bad
Ouija
movies.
Origin of Evil, I've heard is like shit.
No, Ouija is terrible. Ouija Origin of Evil actually has good reviews.
Yeah, I was gonna say out of the two movies, I hear that Ouija Origin of Evil is the better of the two.
Yeah, no, don't. I'm not gonna sit here and say
it's the Mamma Mia of horror movies, or the Mamma Mia Here We Go Again of horror movies.
I'm not gonna sit here and say Ouija Origin of Evil is a classic, but it's watchable. And you know what? I think he deserves a lot of credit for that because apparently Ouija is like the worst movie ever. So he was able to make a sequel that was like good enough. But his career trajectory is really interesting because he started off with these kind of like pretty basic horror movies, and then he made Gerald's Game, which is really good. Then he did Haunting of Hill House is amazing. Surprisingly really like stylish and well done. Like he's I feel like before he didn't have like much of his own style, and I feel like he found it in Gerald's Game, and now he's kind of just added that because like Dr. Sleep feels a lot like Haunting of Hill House in terms of like aesthetic, but Dr. Sleep is really good. The ending, Gabe would. I don't think you've seen Dr. Sleep, so I'm just gonna say the ending. Gabe would probably roll his eyes so hard that they'd fall out of his head. Because it's all.
Does he get?
It's all just like
Spielbergy.
Well, it's all just like remember The Shining. Remember The Shining. Remember the twins. Remember Jack Nicholson.
You remember Blood in the Hallway?
Yeah, like you remember. Here's Johnny. Do you remember all this stuff? And it was just kind of annoying because like the first 3/4 of the movie are so good, and then the ending is just kind of like, okay, let's move on. This is just kind of obvious now. But other than that, no, I really liked it. What's her name? Who's the lady that plays Rose the Hat? Rebecca Ferguson. She's I had never seen her in anything, and she's awesome.
You didn't watch Mission Impossible, Fallout, or Rogue Nation?
I keep meaning to because everybody keeps saying they're really good, so it's on my list eventually.
Rebecca Ferguson's good.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Actress.
She was one of the better horror movie villains that I could think of. That's not just like a nameless monster or faceless monster. Like definitely one of the better performances I saw last year.
Nice.
But basically just a lot of horror movies I've been watching. You guys see VFW yet?
No.
You guys haven't seen... Okay, Matt. VFW is literally something I feel like you would love. It stars your boy Stephen Lang. You got Cobra Kai. Who else is in there? You got William Sadler. And you know the dude in Commando that Arnold Schwarzenegger drops off the cliff?
No.
I don't know if you've seen Commando. Well, you got like all these like 80s... you got all these 80s actors, and... It's what's the guy's name? Joe Bagos, I think his name is. He's like crazy style, and it's so gory and amazing in so many ways. So you guys, it's like Mandy
VFW.
meets Rambo meets Hobo with a Shotgun. So if I can recommend anything to you guys, it's VFW, because I think y'all would very much enjoy that.
You would
love it.
It's like anything that's Mandy meets Hobo with a Shotgun is something I would at least be somewhat interested in.
Well, and you would like it.
Like I have to at least check it out.
No, you should definitely. It's all soaked in neon. Like the entire movie is just red and blue and purple. But yeah, it's crazy gore, just awesome. He did another movie called Bliss, which is also amazing and also super gory and neon, and his movies are very like heavy metal.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say his movies were very Nicholas Winding Refn.
No, not at all. I mean, in terms of like neon, I guess, but
the aesthetic there, but everything else is more like.
But no, the way he shoots, the way the music is, the way the performances is, it has nothing. It's nothing like Nicholas Winding Refn.
Speaking of Refn, did any of you guys like manage to get past the first episode of Too Old to Die Young?
No.
I got to the no. I should go. We should actually do like an episode on it. I got halfway through the second episode and I was like, why hasn't the scene changed? It's been 45 minutes and he's still shooting fucking like clay pots. I was like, what the hell is going on in here? And why is it? What? Come on. So
I was just watching it. I was like, he literally made no effort to tighten this up at all.
No.
Like he
not
literally
at all.
made an assembly cut of just like Miles Teller looking around and just went with it.
Well, so like and Gabe, you can comment more on this, but like it's weird because most of his movies are an hour and a half and not longer than that.
Yep.
And yet each episode here is like an hour 45 minutes or 2 hours, and like it's but it doesn't feel that much different. It feels like you said, like he didn't try and cut anything to make the story tighter, but a lot of the emotion is still like equally relevant or even more relevant. Like there's a couple of shots that are just like slow push-ins on some guy staring at a camera with like blue flickering in the background, and you're like, oh fuck, this is intense. And then like 10 seconds later it's still happening and you're like, oh fuck, this is even more intense. So I think it was a lot of play with that.
I feel like Refn's brain broke with Drive. Like he got so much like fanfare and success so fast, so he's essentially just trying to like replicate that success, but it's doing a terrible job at it.
Well, it's weird because like he didn't write Drive, and he wasn't the original choice to direct it either. He was brought in by Ryan Gosling because they were doing Only God Forgives.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't realize Only God Forgives was before Drive. Like, well, it was like in production.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just strange because his movies up until basically Valhalla Rising was the first of his like ultra slow, super high contrast, really stylized movies. Whereas everything before that's pretty frenetic. The Pusher movies are all really fast paced, and then like Bronson is reasonably fast paced.
Yeah.
It's not like slow by any
Stuff
means.
happens.
Right. Although there are a lot of static shots. There are a lot of static shots where things just develop in the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's things developing in the frame.
It's not just a wide shot of Miles Teller's weird face.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Tool to Die Young was pretty engaging, even though it was like just glacially slow. Up until maybe like the last couple episodes, kind of make some questionable story choices, which I think is an Ed Brubaker thing more than anything.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I was going to say how much of it
like,
was Ed Brubaker's influence on it.
I don't know how much of it was his influence, but I've read enough of his stuff to know that like he's really good at creating like a super engaging story that's great like 80% of the way through, and then like the last 20% just kind of stumbles and falls apart. I mean, I haven't read like The Winter Soldier or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if that has a similar feel to it. But I mean, I think Too Old to Die Young definitely has a lot of Ed Brubaker's like ideas in there, because he's very like, a lot of his comic books that I've read are very like sort of paranoid in that way of like, you know, our country's being destroyed by like psychotic, corrupt elites, and like no authority figures are trustworthy. Like everything is just seedy and horrible. So like the kind of apocalyptic themes of Too Old to Die Young, I think, are a very Ed Brubaker touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Too Old to Die Young, I can't imagine ever getting through it, because I feel like a lot of times with a show that is slow, if it's an actor I really like, I can kind of suck it up.
Yeah.
I don't really care to watch Miles Teller brood. If it was like Tom
Hollywood's
Hardy.
favorite asshole, Miles Teller.
Yeah, if it was like Tom Hardy or, I don't know, somebody more interesting, Robert Pattinson.
You know, I will say, as slow as it is, it still has more consequential things happen in it than most TV that I've seen. Because even though like a lot of popular shows, like, you know, say Game of Thrones, or like I've seen stuff like Homeland or Ray Donovan, a lot of those shows, it's just tires spinning for an entire season, and then the same tires are spinning the next season. Nothing ever really happens. It's just kind of the illusion of things happening. Whereas like, at least in Too Old to Die Young, there's no illusions. If nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And then when things happen, they happen very suddenly. But things do happen at the very least.
Yeah, I guess it's... at the end of the day, like, you have to respect his commitment to style. It's just weird. I wish he could recapture... I like the Neon Demon, but I wish he could recapture that drive magic.
Yeah. I really like Only God Forgives, but I think his best days may be behind him.
Well, because he was like...
the high point.
He was ready to be an art house, like, hipster freaking icon. Like, if he would have been able to replicate Drive, he would have been worshipped by the hipsters the same way, like, Wes Anderson is.
Oh, if he had replicated the success of Drive, he'd be directing the next Star Wars movie. Like...
Well, I'm saying I don't think he'd want to do that.
He wouldn't be. He
would get hired and then fired within 6 months.
He'd probably do a Marvel movie if anything.
He wouldn't do that. I could see him doing like Batman or something.
I could see DC coming to him with open pockets if he could have replicated Drive.
I could see him doing something DC because I think DC's just kind of like F it at this point. We're gonna just let filmmakers do whatever the hell they want with our properties. At least that's what I'm hoping they're doing.
Which is what they should have done to start.
They're willing to let filmmakers do whatever they want until they get to post-production, and then they're like, wait, we have to redo everything that,
Well, I'm hoping it's changed now. Obviously.
Normally I would have agreed with you, Gabe. Yeah, to kind of go to your point, Austin, I think they had a shakeup in management, which is why
they have a new CEO,
the
right?
Snyder.
Don't they have a new CEO?
Whoever's in charge of like the DC movie properties, I think there was a turnover after Justice League tanked hard. I think they had a turnover and they brought in someone new who's like, okay, we're gonna do smaller.
I thought the Snyder Cut was just Zack Snyder using his producer privileges to get it done on his own. I didn't think DC was that involved.
They're giving him like $30 million.
No, HBO's not giving him any money for reshoots, but they said that he can get $30 million for. And here's the weird thing: is like we can talk about this for a little bit if you guys want to, but like they're giving him $30 million for nothing but post production. I think it's going to be like a lateral amount of change. I don't think it's going to like make it significantly better or worse, because there are certain things that Joss Whedon brought to the project that are horrible, and there are certain things that he brought that are good. And I think that the things that are horrible that Joss Whedon brought, I think Snyder's going to change that and make it better. But I think the good things that he brought, I think Snyder's going to fuck up.
Well, I think with Justice League, I don't think the Snyder Cut's going to be any better. I just think it's going to be more consistent. Because
it's going to be a more coherent movie.
Yeah, because there's a lot of weird...
I don't think it's going to be more coherent.
There's a lot of weird inconsistencies in Justice League where, for the first half of the movie, Cyborg is like this emo sad boy who's just bitching about how he was cursed with badass superpowers or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, you have a gift, you should help people. Like, is it a gift though? No one understands me.
Can't you see I've got a red eye?
And then in the last half of the movie, he's like, a dude bro crushing beer cans on his head. So it's just that flip is so sudden, and the whole movie's full of things like that. So I think at the very least, he will be a emo sad boy the whole movie instead of just the first half.
Well, yeah, and
Superman's gonna come up to him and be like, "We need you to open the mother box." He's gonna be like, "I don't think I can. I've got a red eye."
What?
I don't want to because I'm sad.
Well, and you can't.
It's basically Eeyore in a movie. They just get Peter Cullen to do the voiceover for Cyborg. I'm sad and I cannot open anything.
Well, and you can't undo that just Steppenwolf is a lame villain, and it was a lame idea to use him as a villain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but if that's the case that was in the script from the Snyder Cut, that's not changing.
Well, that's what I said. I said you can't undo that.
Yeah, and that, like, even if they have more money to make him look better, which is kind of unfair because one of the problems was that they didn't have the time to develop a good look for him. Not that it would have helped, but a lot of people are like, oh, the CG is so shitty. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, don't blame the artists, blame the fucking release schedule.
It's just interesting to me that they threw out General Zod and Doomsday with the first, they threw out two of the most iconic Superman villains in the first two Superman movies, and then they're like, oh, for the Justice League movie we're gonna go with some D-lister that nobody knows. It's like, why are you going to use like A-list villains for the first 2 movies and then a D-list for the third. Like I know he's supposed to like lead into Darkseid, but if you're gonna give us this crap sandwich, at least like put some freaking condiments.
Well, because
they
wanna Avengers Endgame it. They wanna build up to the big bad, villain. Which I mean, Thanos is a ripoff of Darkseid, so it's like, well,
it's only
what
fair.
if it's only fair.
But the problem is Marvel has done something that I don't think, and I obviously all those other podcasts are lost in the ether, so nobody knows my thoughts on Marvel movies. But
I mean, it's going to be pretty consistent.
I don't.
With
Yeah,
what Gabe thinks.
Yeah, I obviously don't like the Marvel movies. Disney has been able to do something that I don't think any other, and specifically Kevin Feige, I don't think anybody else is going to be able to replicate what he did, because they tried it with the Universal monster movies and that was a huge disaster. They tried it with DC and that was a disaster. Yeah. I'm assuming they were going to try it with Star Wars, and literally every Star Wars movie they put out has been garbage, so that's not going to happen. So I know it's controversial. I know Rogue One is the 3rd best Star Wars movie of all time, according to the Twitter.
What the hell is up with this historical revisionism that Rogue One isn't awful?
No,
because a lot of people at the time loved it when it came out.
People liked Rogue One when it came out. I know it's hard for
dark,
you,
dude.
I know it's hard for you to wrap your mind around that, Gabe.
I can't do it. Rogue One is still it might be the worst Star Wars movie, even with even with just how bad some of the prequels were, how bad some of the sequels are. At least Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, not particularly good movies, but I still enjoyed them for what they were.
That's true. At least they were stupid. You could laugh at
Rogue One is bad, and I hated the experience of watching
it. My problem is, the thing is, they made the main characters the most unlikable, boring sacks of shit I've ever seen.
Did you guys play Jedi Fallen Order, the newest Star Wars game?
No, but I do want to get back to the DC thing.
Wait, but real quick, the most shocking cameo of 2019 is Saw Gerrera pops up in Jedi Fallen Order.
Fuck, I need to play that game now, dude. The only good thing about Rogue One is Saw Gerrera.
Mads Mikkelsen?
No, dude, Saw Gerrera. The fact that Forrest Whitaker spends 5 minutes of his screen time, or however long he was on there, just yelling his lines.
That was
clenched teeth. Oh my god! I still that. For that reason alone is enough for me.
They need to stop putting
Rogue
these
One.
They need to stop putting these Academy Award worthy actors in these stupid costumes and having them say stupid things, because it makes it so much harder to believe it.
Lies, deceptions.
Just make it some stupid CGI diarrhea creature. I don't need you to ruin Forrest Whitaker for me.
Ruin? It made him better.
That's your opinion.
God.
I think that's an opinion that
so
not
good.
many people share with you.
Dude, when is the last time Forrest Whitaker actually gave a good performance? Let's be honest here.
Was he
The Crying Game?
Was he in Children of Men?
No, he wasn't.
No, that was Chiwetel Ejiofor. Yeah.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Wait, what was? I can't think of any movie I've seen friggin' Forrest Whitaker in besides Rogue One.
Last King of
I
Scotland.
haven't seen the friggin' Last King of Scotland. Who has time for that?
No one's seen the Last King of Scotland, except for Gabe.
What about the Butler? Lee Daniels as the Butler.
I saw the Butler.
Battlefield Earth. In it. He was great in Battlefield Earth.
I knew him from. He was great in the relaunch of the Twilight Zone back in the early 2000s. That's how I found out.
Okay, so he was in Arrival.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And I don't remember him being. He was in The Last Stand with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he was. He was horrible in that too.
I can't remember.
But then again, everyone's horrible
I literally
in that, but that's what makes it so much fun.
I cannot envision his character in my head in either Arrival or The Last Stand.
He's the military leader in Arrival.
And I've seen both of those movies. And
he's the military leader in Arrival. He's the one who brings all of them in. He's like, Amy Adams, lies, deceptions from aliens.
The thing I really hate about Rogue One is the initial trailer made it seem really interesting, where it's it's like one of those movies where it's like a spy movie, they got to go undercover and steal the plans for the Death Star, and they get into some moral quandaries where it's they have to ask themselves how far are you willing to go to win this war or whatever. But it's just Go to this planet, get the thing. Oh, the thing's on another planet. Go to the next planet, get the thing. Oh, the thing's on another
Jim,
planet.
your princess is in another
the problem
planet.
with Star Wars is they've picked like several like interesting directors to do stuff, and they just don't let them do their thing. Like Gareth Edwards is not. I'm not gonna say I'd say he's a great director, but like
I feel like that's where it starts and ends, because like J.J. Abrams is, J.J. Abrams. He's overrated. Ryan Johnson is Ryan Johnson.
J.J. Abrams makes a fun popcorn movie,
He does.
It's weird to me though that like Ryan Johnson actually is like an interesting filmmaker, and they let him do whatever he wanted, and he made the biggest disaster I've ever seen in my entire life. Which I know is, which I have found is a very unpopular opinion, apparently. But
it is.
I at least thought it was a fun disaster.
Yeah,
I did not
like
have
it was
fun
more
watching
on the
Last
goofy
Jedi at all.
side. It was more on the goofy side, but like if you watch like his episodes of Breaking Bad, that's the only reason I got excited for it, because Looper didn't thrill me. I enjoyed Brick, and the Brothers Bloom was kind of just a disaster. But he recognizes that. But his episodes of Breaking Bad, where he's working on other people's material, is fantastic.
Yeah, no, his Breaking Bad episodes is some of the best episodes of the show.
So I was nervous about it, but it offered me something different. I think that's kind of what people didn't like. I know what Gabe didn't like, and the more I watch it, the more I understand where you're coming from, Gabe. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I do see where you're coming from. But Phil Lord, Chris Miller and Phil Lord doing like Solo, it just I wouldn't call them cutting edge, interesting filmmakers.
I think they were an interesting choice for Solo. I want to see their schlocky action comedy version of Solo. I want to see the Lord and Miller cut, because I feel like it would just be a huge farce, and that's probably why they got fired.
I mean, maybe that might be why. Like, I wonder if there was like fan reaction to the sort of comedic elements in that was happening with The Last Jedi, or like the fact that the Solo movie wasn't as like depressingly monotone as Rogue One, and they're like, oh no, we need to get someone in here to just finish the movie because we've already sunk too much money into it. But like Colin Trevorrow, or Trevorrow, I'm sorry.
That's true. Josh Trank.
So, like Josh Trank doing the movie. Like the most interesting one would have been James Mangold doing Boba Fett. But again, as we've said on the show multiple times, which I feel bad, because I feel like having if we ever got the sort of like pull to get James Mangold on the show, it'd be like the most awesome thing ever.
Why? Wait, out of all people, why James Mangold?
I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. I like 310 to Yuma. Logan was okay. The Wolverine was whatever, but on my list of filmmakers I like to talk to, I don't know if James Mangold would be in the top 20.
I've heard enough of his DGA shows that like he's just like he seems like a really interesting guy, and just his whole history as like he started off in a super independent feature, and he's kind of become a really like heavy studio guy, but he's able to like make his own projects or projects that he finds interesting.
What is he? He's doing something next. What's he doing?
He's doing Indiana Jones 5, theoretically.
Ugh.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. It just feels like I don't care if they put out an Indiana Jones 5, but it just feels weird not having Spielberg direct it.
I think it just is stupid to have an Indiana Jones 5, especially if Disney is producing it, because it's just going to be garbage.
Yeah, you know what? I would normally think that, but I'm down to watch Harrison Ford in anything. So
you can make. This is what I hate. Like, a sequel or a remake or a reboot is not inherently bad. The reason they all suck is because these studios don't know how to make good movies, and they pick crappy filmmakers to do these things.
No, the reason they all suck is that the laziness that kind of encourages them to have these ideas is the same laziness that causes them to not follow through on these ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that.
Well, because like the thing is like, The Invisible Man was a remake, but they're like, okay, we're going to give a creative filmmaker, like, let him do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to put any Easter eggs or any crap. Like, he's literally, because The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss has literally nothing to do with the original one, like, at all. Like, it's a completely different premise. Like, literally.
It's just a bad guy is an invisible guy.
Well, I think in The Invisible Man, he's not even a bad guy in the original, like, classic. I think he's just like a dude.
I think in the classic he uses his invisibility to like commit crimes and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know a lot about it. I just know it really has like nothing to do with the Lee Winnell version. So it's like you can make good remakes and you can make good sequels. It's just like you said. It's just like laziness. It's studio interference. It's bad filmmaking, and like even good filmmakers. Like I feel like if you take who's really hot, right? If you take Robert Eggers, and you have him do Star Wars, Boba Fett or whatever, I just don't see a filmmaker like that putting out his best work in that setting.
So to be clear though,
it's also weird that all of the one note Star Wars mini bosses that don't do anything except look cool are all getting like these huge, spin-offs or extended universe like backstories. I mean, like there's nothing interesting about Darth Maul except that like he does cool spinny shit with his lightsaber. There's nothing interesting about Boba Fett except his outfit.
Actually, no, that's true.
And yet,
as a huge Boba Fett fan, I know that's well, and his ship's cool too. Although it's kind of given the current climate, calling a ship the Slave One is not necessarily the best way to go. But the thing you're that's also kind of not really looked at is the fact that helming a movie that costs $10 million, but you have complete creative control is completely different than helming a movie that costs $110 million. And like the difference in what kind of latitude you have, the fact that every moment you're on set, there's money running through your mind about like, oh, am I going to be able to get my shot? The compromises you have to make from the various art departments, the amount of time you have to spend. Like, I don't think people who get everything in camera on a small indie shoot think about how their movie is supposed to work when they're incorporating green screen and set extensions and CG replacement heads and things like that to a movie. Like, I just don't think that it crosses most people's minds, and it's easy for studios to kind of take advantage of people that way, which is why I think a lot of smaller filmmakers think that when it comes to their big budget movie, the second one they do is probably going to be better than the first one.
Yeah,
because they just don't know how to
I just think it's this. It's like I just think it's the mindset. I think the mindset that has where people can't be bothered to think of an original idea and just say, let's make another Star Wars movie. Let's make another Indiana Jones movie. That carries over into the actual filmmaking process where they then can't be bothered to do it well. And they're like, just shortcut this, shortcut that, make this formulaic, throw in some Easter eggs.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's hard to know when exactly you've maintained a good sequel and when you've gone too far, because I mean, like let's take Star Wars. The fact that The Force Awakens is just a retread of A New Hope is like they just didn't know what to do, where to go. Let's play it safe. Let's hit all of the old marks, and you never know what is going to be good and what's going to be bad about it, and you don't want to experiment too much and go too far out like Highlander 2, and you don't want to be too conservative. So I think it can be hard to make, and I also think a lot of times like with A New Hope, it's like that was a self-contained movie. They didn't need to make a sequel. It's a miracle that the sequel worked well, but it's probably because they were taking it, as a pair with the Return of the Jedi. But
I feel like if people got an original, like an awesome original Star Wars movie that had nothing to do with anything, like literally, like even The Mandalorian has its like connections to like, because obviously The Mandalorian looks like Boba Fett, like it literally has a connection to nothing. I don't think people like aren't gonna see that because it doesn't have any characters. It's like at the end of the day, it's a Star Wars movie. Like you have a perfect platform to just make great original movies because people are gonna see it because it's a freaking Star Wars movie. But no, we're just gonna keep rehashing stuff that we already know. And like even The Mandalorian, which I know everybody wants to pretend the Mandalorian is the greatest thing since sliced bread because it's different. It has like 3 really good episodes out of like 8. Like 5 of the episodes are crap. 3 of them are really good. So let's not act like The Mandalorian is this work of art that all of a sudden saves Star Wars. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that sentiment, but I think they need to like get away from all this crap that we already know and start trying to think of original ideas, because Star Wars is going to make money no matter what. Like, it's just how it is. Unless it's like, and I think you saw with Han Solo, that movie didn't make crap because nobody wanted to see
Why?
that. Because nobody cares about seeing a Han Solo movie. Because everybody already seen 4 Han Solo movies at that point. Or 5. Or 4.
Yeah, I think I think there's like 8 different factors why the movie.
Well,
didn't
of
do
course,
well
there's multiple.
office. I think minimizing it, just like all of the arguments of like, oh, Solo's not a good movie because I knew the character was going to survive by the end, is not a good reason for not liking a movie. Because like anytime you go in and see a movie you've already seen, you're never in fear for the main character's life. And in a lot of movies that doesn't apply, especially sequels. So
yeah, no, pretty much any blockbuster movie, you know who's gonna die and who's not. Like, if you're paying attention. Obviously, with indie movies, that's different. But yeah, like any big blockbuster movie, like you, especially if you're in tune with like movie news, like we are, it's like, okay, they're making a Batman movie with Robert Pattinson and Paul Dano's playing the Joker, and I don't know if this is true because I haven't.
I think he's playing the Penguin, isn't he?
I thought he was playing the Riddler.
The Riddler? Yeah.
Paul Dano. Wait, what did I say?
The Joker.
Sorry, the Riddler. And for example, like if I knew he was signed on for 5 movies, I don't know if that's true. I don't know how many movies he signed on, but I'm like, okay, the Riddler's not gonna die or go away at any point. Like he's gonna be in future movies. So yeah, obviously that's not a good argument for why a movie sucks. And actually, from my understanding, I've heard Solo actually isn't all that terrible.
I mean, I like it. I think it's funny.
So do they ever explain the origin of the stripe on his pants?
God, I wish they did. They explained every fucking other thing.
I hate that crap. I don't know if I could get through
Actually,
that
you know
movie.
what? You know what? In its defense, in Solo's defense, they also did not explain why he has a scar on the bottom of his or on the top of his chin. They did not explain that, which it was unfortunate. I was hoping it happened in a whipping accident with a tiger, but or with a Zindiger or whatever the hell the tigers in Star Wars are.
Speaking of Star Wars, I'm sure you guys already know this, but for any of our 4 listeners, one of them not being us, I found it interesting. So I know we were talking about it, and I watched the Tartakovsky.
Tartakovsky is
Tartakovsky.
the animator. Tarkovsky is the 1970s Soviet filmmaker.
Tartakovsky.
Both of them have a lot of slow scenes.
I watched his Clone Wars, which is definitely the best Star Wars thing since Return of the Jedi. I guess George Lucas had hired Tartakovsky to run Lucasfilm Animated. Like he was gonna create this whole animated company and have Tartakovsky run it, but I forget exactly what happened, but it essentially fell through because I think Tartakovsky got like signed on to do a movie or something, and
It's Transylvania or Hotel
I
Transylvania.
forget exactly what happened, but essentially him and Lucas had a falling out or something. So they gave it to the guy. I think Dave Filoni is the guy that did the CGI Clone Wars show.
Yeah,
He is.
The CGI Clone Wars show. I've only seen bits of it, but it is horrible.
People love it. I hate the animation on it. I can't.
I hate the animation on it, but I'm willing to give it a try because I do think Dave Filoni is pretty good.
I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great show, and he was one of the people behind that. But
yeah, the first season specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I love that show, but I've seen
I do too.
Bits and pieces of the CGI Clone Wars series just when it was airing on TV, and all I remember is it's butt ugly. The stories suck. The characters are boring. And Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars just blows it completely out of the water.
It's so awesome. Like, the thing I've noticed with Tartakovsky's, like, his better stuff, it's almost all action.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't...
The best episodes of Dexter's Lab were all, like, action-packed or homages to other movies.
Well, and Dexter's Lab is great, too. But Tartakovsky... I don't watch as much animation as you guys, but I can't imagine there's a better action animator, at least in America, than Tartakovsky. Is that fair to say?
That's probably fair to say. I mean, Primal is freaking awesome.
Primal is the most awesome thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a guy who's not a huge, like, animation guy, but Primal is freaking awesome. But, yeah, no, the Clone Wars, it's like, all action. Like, Grievous is super awesome, and he's so lame in the movie. But in Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, he's so awesome.
Yeah.
And, like, so is Mace Windu. Like, all of these Jedis are so much cooler in the Clone Wars than they are in the freaking $200 million movie.
No. Or the $200 million Clone Wars series that is now canon.
Yeah. I'm just like, It's like freaking Keanu Mundi is awesome in the freaking Clone Wars. Like, who cares? He's the freaking lamest character in the movies, and he dies so lamely. Like, he just gets like shot. But like in the Clone Wars, one Jedi can take out like 700 droids at once. But in the movie, like 3 clone troopers can take out a Jedi.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I know. It's...
And, like, why is it in the Clone Wars TV show, they have all these, like, they don't have different Force powers, but the Force powers they actually use and are awesome. But in the movie, they're so lame. Like, it's just like, I push you. But in the Clone Wars, he's, like, crushing people and, like, you balling up like remains of droids and like throwing it at other ones. It's like so much cooler. I'm like, what? Like, why aren't you taking notes, George Lucas? I will say though, I like the prequel trilogy better than the new trilogy, which I don't know how controversial that is, but I
think a lot of people feel that way. I know I do.
I will say this: I tried watching Attack of the Clones the other day, and it might be the worst movie ever. Like, it's so
Attack of the Clones
boring.
Is really rough.
It's so boring. The CGI is terrible. The dialogue is like written by an alien.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is everything that's cringy about the prequels, I think we find funny now. Mm-hmm. Whereas everything that's cringy about the sequels is still cringy.
Yeah, maybe a decade from now it'll be just funny.
Well, it's also that like the sequels, the moments that it had to have like a really solid payoff, it has a really solid payoff and it's also by the guy who originated it. So we're willing to take some of the things that are like,
well, and the thing is,
good. Like flying R2-D2, you're like, that's okay. I guess it'll work when in comparison to like in the end of Attack of the Clones when everyone's fucking attacking each other. And also all of the sequels have like these epic closing shots that is not quite there in The Force Awakens or Rise of the Skywalker.
Well, and I will say this.
And then the one that's in The Last Jedi is kind of goofy with like a kid in a broom.
I will say this, like the thing about George Lucas is nobody can accuse him of not thinking of a bunch of weird ideas. Like at least in the prequels you get a bunch of new just like creature and character designs.
Yeah, you get a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, you get a lot of new
stuff.
Like literally, like all the new movies is just like rehashing the same crap.
Yeah, the Casino Planet was a real rehash.
Well, that was just terrible. And a Casino Planet isn't that
creative. I would say it was poorly implemented, but having a Casino Planet is kind of a cool idea. But it was poorly implemented in a way that like I think George Lucas could have implemented it better.
I don't need your whole like I don't need Rian Johnson's ham-fisted like, oh, the elites control all the war. Like, okay, like
you don't need any political commentary in a movie called Star Wars.
I don't need ham-fisted political commentary in a freaking Star Wars.
You don't need ham-fisted political commentary in a ham-fisted movie called Star Wars.
I don't need Star Wars to be ham-fistedly somehow about Trump, considering that everything is somehow ham-fistedly about Trump these days.
Yeah, like that's not an endorsement of anybody. It's just like you can be smart about things. You don't have to, like, not everything needs to be so freaking hit you over the head.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like, you know what bit of lore makes the entire Star Wars universe more confusing and more inconsequential? War profiteering.
Yeah, right.
That was my least favorite part to begin with.
Well, the problem with The Last Jedi is it makes the entire conflict seem like a sideshow. And the rest of the galaxy is just kind of sitting around chilling. And every choice they make in The Last Jedi just doubles down on making the main conflict more and more and more of a sideshow.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say this about it. They try to make this whole division between like the First Order and the Resistance like a big deal in the first one, but it doesn't make any sense in The Force Awakens. Like the First Order acting like the Empire makes no sense. Like for the scale that it has.
Don't control any planets.
They don't do any.
Not the Empire.
They're like, why are you making a resistance to the Resistance? Like the First Order is like a gut reaction turn. So why is the Resistance so shitty? Like
that's a good point. Like if they still have like that
like that's the central issue with the bad guys in the new that and the fact that the bad guys are just a joke.
Yeah,
like
that's definitely the entire sequel trilogy is like, instead of, two sides fighting for the fate of the galaxy, it's more like
Two sides fighting for a parking spot.
Well, it's just, the Crips and the Bloods are fighting on the bad side of town, and everyone else just kind of ignores them and pretends they're not there.
Yeah. I mean, there could have been a lot of interesting things to mine out of The Force Awakens going in, and The Last Jedi doesn't really mine any of that, but then it's made worse because the Rise of Sky... Why do we always talk about Star Wars on this podcast now? Like,
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
The Rise... I mean, we haven't heard Austin's side of things in a while, but the Rise of Skywalker takes all of what might have been an interesting thread in The Force Awakens and just does a shitty job executing it. Like, that's a huge problem, too.
Oh, yeah. No, the Rise of Skywalker is just a freaking massive dumpster fire. Though, dude, I enjoyed it more.
Adam Driver's last line is... Urgh! That's
like,
his last
when
line
they
in the whole movie.
when they kissed, I freaking groaned so hard.
Oh my god!
Like, this is the
so
dumbest
bad.
thing I've ever seen in a big budget movie.
So bad. It was so bad. Like, no, the best is Oscar Isaac, because he's totally like in on he's like looking at the camera and he's like, "Isn't this ridiculous and stupid?" Somehow Emperor Palpatine is back. Like, you get this, Oscar Isaac. You know that this is
who's writing these scripts? That's what I want to know. Like, who's sitting here? Like, what freaking like algorithm do they have to write these scripts? Like, I feel like they get like an Academy Award winning writer, which I think the writer of Batman vs Superman wrote The Rise of Skywalker, who is an Academy
with J.J. Abrams,
who is an Academy Award winning writer, shockingly enough.
You can tell the bars are both really low and really high.
I mean, Argo's a good movie, but I haven't seen anything else that would indicate that he's worthy of Academy Award. More so than, like, Paul Thomas Anderson. But I feel like they get, like, writers to write a script, and then they put it in, like, a machine that just, like, takes it and makes everything dumber. Because I just can't imagine, like, humans writing this stuff. Because it's also stupid.
I mean, I can definitely, like, I have to give J.J. Abrams credit, because at least the Rise of Skywalker is somewhat watchable, given what he had to deal with. Like, it's a mess, don't get me wrong, but it's amazing he came out the other side of that thing with, like, any semblance of cohesion, because that thing was just... Like, the amount of money they pumped into that thing to make sure that they had a bunch of great locations and they could do a bunch of, like, crazy and cool stuff versus the amount of time it took to make and release the movie is just, like, I don't envy anyone to do that.
Yeah. No.
So, I'm very harsh on J.J. Abrams as a filmmaker. As Gabe said, he's a very good popcorn filmmaker, but I think there's, like, a perception that he's supposed to, like, elevate the medium of, like, action movie, sci-fi movie, when really he's just another player who has a skill set.
Yeah, no, he's essentially just like a better version of like Brett Ratner. Like, if Brett Ratner had like any creativity.
He's a pretty pale imitation of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. But
because he was
I mean, Ryan Johnson didn't do him any favors, because basically I feel like The Last Jedi is just crapping all over Force Awakens, and then the friggin' Rise of Skywalker is just crapping all over The Last Jedi. I mean, it is in terms of, like, I don't see how it's not, because he literally takes all of J.J. Abrams' ideas and just throws them in the trash. So,
like what?
What did you say?
Like what?
That, like, Snoke is like this Grandmaster villain, or that, like, Rey's lineage is important, or I don't know. I haven't seen any of them in a while, but obviously Ryan Johnson did his own thing.
Going back to DC quickly. Oh, go ahead, Gabe, if you wanted to make a comment on that. But I did want to bring it back to Justice League.
Just bring it back to DC.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm bored of Star Wars at this point.
The thing about the Justice League movie is, like, they were trying so hard to ape Marvel that, like, it took the Marvel guy Joss Whedon to be like, why are you guys aping Marvel? Why don't you do Legion of Doom? And the fact that we're never going to get the Legion of Doom makes me sad.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Because that would have been a better way to go with a Justice League movie, have two like super powered teams going against each other. That's the one thing Marvel can't do, or has tried to do and has not done a good job of.
Well, this is why.
So it's like the one unique bullet in your gun, and you're like, nah, we're not gonna do that.
DC,
That's just, nah.
DC likes to cling to the fact that they have great villains, but for some reason, they're
all Batman villains?
Yeah, like they've made. Well, no, DC has plenty of good villains, but for some reason they have no idea how to utilize them properly. Like Legion of Doom would be great. Like what happened to that Gareth Evans Deathstroke movie? That would have been the greatest thing in the history of cinema. And I have a feeling that's never going to happen.
Probably.
Though, like, I don't know. Like, Suicide Squad was a complete dumpster fire. I'm sure James Gunn's The Suicide Squad will be entertaining at least. But and it's like the Joker is so far removed from anything that has to do with any of their other movies. The Joaquin Phoenix Joker. So while I'm a little mixed on the movie, obviously a lot of people liked it. I don't really think that's going to lead to any long-term success. So I don't know, like, I just don't know what they're doing. Because, like, even, like, Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be lame as hell because the 80s trend has died, I feel like, years ago at this point.
It's all about 90s nostalgia now.
And Kristen Wiig is the villain sounds just, ugh.
I think Wonder Woman 1984, like, until it's proven to be shitty, I'm going to believe that it's going to be awesome.
I have a hard time buying that, but...
Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord. Okay,
I like that.
Kristen Wiig as the bad guy.
As Cheetah.
I'm not super good about that. Bringing back Chris Pine. Okay, that's weird, but Chris Pine is charming. Wait, is that Wonder Woman riding fucking lightning? Wait, is that Wonder Woman in the fucking Kingdom Come armor? Yep. I just Kingdom Came. Yep.
Did you just say you just Kingdom Came? Is that what you...
Oh, yeah. Call it Alex Ross. He's doing the posters. But it's like, it's setting up something that I'm excited for it to deliver.
I'm just hoping
and that's better than a lot of that. Like, that makes me excited. And I liked Wonder Woman. I thought it was well done. They're going to take off a lot of the gloves of like, oh, we need to make sure we connect it. The one thing that I'm kind of disappointed with is that they're not keeping the same composer, because I thought the composer they had, I think it's Rupert Gregson Williams, I thought he did a fantastic job with the movie. And like, granted, they're getting an upgrade because Hans Zimmer is doing it, but I'm going to miss... I really like the music in Wonder Woman. But I'm excited about Wonder Woman.
Which of his previous scores is Hans Zimmer going to recycle?
I was going to say, I was like, Hans Zimmer thinks of a great score once every decade and then recycles it. Like, go watch Gladiator.
It's going to be Black Rain.
Go watch Gladiator and watch Pirates of the Caribbean. It is the exact same score. And the score from Inception, like the song Time from Inception, is the exact same score for 12 Years a Slave. It's literally like he's not even trying to hide it.
Yeah. It's going to be
a lot of Inception's music is from The Thin Red Line, which I've mentioned on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, which one? A lot of what was from Thin Red Line?
Inception.
Yeah, Thin Red Line. I've heard that recycled a lot too. But I feel like, but then he does have great stuff. Like Interstellar was really good, and that wasn't. I can't think of that recycling.
I know it's weird. Interstellar is kind of just on its own.
Same thing with Man of Steel for the most part. It's pretty.
Yeah. I liked, and again, I like Dark Phoenix a lot. I thought his score, like, that was the best thing of that movie.
You watched Dark Phoenix, you freaking nerd.
Yeah, you should. No, you guys should listen to the music. Don't watch the movie, but listen to the music.
Okay.
It's really good.
Maybe I'll
listen to the music
really
and imagine the movie that should be
a
going with
better
it.
movie than the one that was released.
Imagine they didn't cast Sansa Stark as Dark Phoenix and have. Going back to writers directing movies. Why the hell are they getting freaking Simon Kinberg?
Simon Kinberg's a writer-producer, though.
Simon Kinberg, if he's going to direct, he should direct a couple indie movies before he starts making. I hate it that you get like freaking Alex Kurtzman and the other guy, Roberto Orci. You get these guys, like they write a bunch of movies and all of a sudden they think they could come in and direct a big budget like blockbuster. Like, no, you need to pay your dues.
It's crazy that those guys just seem to have lifetime employment with CBS.
Well, CBS is
CBS,
where creativity goes to die. Like, Brian Fuller is a creative genius, but apparently his Star Trek show is absolutely garbage. So, I'm just wondering if something about working for CBS just like warps your brain.
Well, also, I mean,
They seem to have
also
turned Star Trek into like the new CSI.
Ugh. I this is why I'm like, Brian Fuller,
you get a
get out of
spin-off,
CBS.
and you get a spin-off.
Like, I was really into American Gods the first season, and then Brian Fuller left, and I was like, I'm not even going to waste my time, and apparently it's hot garbage. But he did that to go do
Star Trek Discovery.
to Star Trek Discovery, which apparently is hot garbage.
Yep.
So, yeah, but, we were talking about DC. I think, so this is what's going to happen. If Matt Reeves' The Batman movie is a huge hit, which I think it will be because they seem to have everything. Like, it seems to be that movie where everything seems to be working out. Like, they got a good creative
also,
team.
Matt Reeves.
They have a great cast.
Matt Reeves has also proven that he can handle like big budget and epic epic special effects, and he's probably one of the best at handling visual and special effects
and he could still bring like creativity to the table.
So
it's not just going to be generic action movie. Like, he'll have some cool
he's
set
probably
pieces
one of the
in
best
there.
choices they could have made for any big budget genre type.
It's just, my worry is
squad
that
movie.
his movie, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's gonna realize that Robert Pattinson's one of the 5 best actors working today, and then DC is just they're gonna get away from this actually pretty good idea of just making separate movies with like good filmmakers, and then they're gonna try to build around that some bull crap. We'll see though.
Well, so here's the thing about like the whole like interconnected Marvel universe thing was that it really did just start off as a bunch of Easter eggs, and it's really hard to replicate, but it doesn't seem that hard. The problem is everyone went in with the idea of, okay, we know where it's going to end, when really they should have done it like I know Gabe and I talked about this with Jackie Brown and freaking Out of Sight, where it's just like loosely connected by Michael Keaton. Like, that's how you start the ball rolling, and it takes time. Like, this is it seems like it's difficult to do, but and maybe it is, but like a lot of it is just you have to be patient and let the things develop and put out good products.
It's so weird because they made Man of Steel, and Man of Steel has like nothing to do with anything. They only like, they have a little Easter egg of like the Wayne satellite.
Yeah.
But they made like no effort to like connect it to other stuff, and then they go from Man of Steel to Batman versus Superman. It's like, whoa! Like, at least like you don't need to do, if you're gonna just do straight into stuff, like, you don't need to do a Superman origin story. Like, we've seen several movies about, we've seen movies about it. They had a freaking show that went on for like 45 seasons in Smallville. Like, everybody knows Superman's origin story. So if you're gonna try to like, but it's like, if you're gonna rush into this like cinematic universe, then make Man of Steel like Superman, Batman, like, just make that the first movie. Don't like tease us with like an origin movie and then do all this bull crap. Just
I still find it shocking that BVS and Captain America Civil War came out the same year, and they're basically the same movie.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen Civil War, but from my understanding, it's like the exact same plot.
It's the exact same plot, has all the exact same flaws, although BVS has a few extra things wrong with it.
I don't know.
But we also got
at least with Civil War, there's no contrived like, what, Tony Stark, your mother's name is the same as my mother's name?
Why did you say
that
that
is transcended. Why did you say that name? Serve Martha.
Oh God, I still like Batman vs Superman, but that scene is so preposterous. But we did get that Batman
parts of Batman v Superman.
We got that Batman rooftop scene, which was super epic. Where he's not rooftop, but it's like
the warehouse.
The warehouse.
The warehouse scene. Yeah, Batman indirectly kills like everyone, which I actually find incredibly funny. I know a lot of people took like a lot. They were like, Batman kills so many people. I'm like, Zack Snyder saw the criticism about Superman killing people, and like only heroes kill like what is it, like by proxy, like death by proxy or death by incidental death. And he was just like, everyone's gonna die, and it's all gonna be incidental.
He's like, I'm gonna have Batman snap somebody's
neck. I'm gonna put this in their face and tell them like, oh, are you sure? Because like, Batman technically didn't kill that guy. he
The
did
wall
die, but
killed
he didn't
him.
technically killed him.
Well, yeah, you're telling me the freaking Nolan's Batman
The
didn't
fucking
kill
bullets in
anybody?
the fall killed him.
But speaking of Christopher Nolan, you guys excited about Tenet?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Christopher Nolan hasn't made a bad movie, in my opinion. So, I get the sentiment, and I kind of was there for a second, where like you just kind of want to hate on Christopher Nolan because all of his movies are so good, and everybody's constantly telling you how good his movies are. But at a certain point, you just have to accept like his movies are really freaking good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have a whole episode on Inception where we kind of cover it. Although I have more thoughts on Christopher Nolan since then, but the only thing that worries me is something I brought up in Inception is like I guess he crashed like a 747 for the movie, and it was like the most efficient and the most cost effective way to do it was to just crash an entire damn plane somewhere.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And I understand that, and I do appreciate the fact that Nolan tries to get as much in camera as possible because it does make the editing process a lot easier when you don't have to imagine what it's going to look like. You can just see it there. But I'm also like, it also worries me like the amount of money that they just throw at him for him to do his project.
But he makes it back. That's the thing. He makes it back and more. Like even Dunkirk made a bunch of money.
Yeah, Dunkirk definitely made a ton of money.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because Christopher Nolan is proof that if you find a good filmmaker and give them lots of money and they make really good movies, you can make a lot of money off them. But for some reason, we're still just farting out crappy Star Wars movies and crappy Marvel movies and just like all these remakes and sequels when there are actually good movies out there.
I mean, to be clear, the studios did this to themselves. Because the studios made it so that the only way they can make money year over year is by putting out as few movies as possible and having them make as much money as possible. The problem is that it didn't have to be this way, but sort of like the hyper inflated box office returns of things like the Avengers movies and like fucking Avatar and all of that have made it seem like this is the most viable option, when in reality it's probably still better to make a lot of small movies with lower budgets and release them. But then they run into the problem that they can't release them in theaters because no one's going to go watch them because the studios caused all of the theaters to replace projectors with digital projection instead of analog projection. And so now everyone has to charge more money for tickets. So like it's all the studio's own doing, and they need something like they had in the 90s where they had the indie revolution come along and bring people back into movie theaters and bring new voices in. But it's just, I don't know, it's dire and it's all of the movie studio's own faults.
Yeah, it sucks. I just feel like there's only like a handful of filmmakers that get a lot of money to make their original stuff. It's like Tarantino, Nolan.
I don't even think he gets a ton of money though, Tarantino.
I think he gets the amount of money he wants.
He still has to like independently source most of his movies, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I did not like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood very much, so I don't.
It's not his best.
Yeah, it's not his best. I don't know really what that has to do with him sourcing his money. I just wanted to state my opinion on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, I still feel like he's like, because like you have to imagine somebody like him, like he gets whatever actor he wants to work with because he knows Brad Pitt is gonna act like himself for 3 hours and he's gonna win an Academy Award, even though there was infinitely better performances. What was that? Was that last year or was that 2 years ago?
That was last year.
Just last year, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
Brad Pitt was better
yes.
than Willem Dafoe? Are you kidding me?
Ah,
Do you
there
not
it is.
have eyes? I know you guys already talked about The Lighthouse, but come on. Like, Brad Pitt better than Willem Dafoe? That is literally criminal. They should be indicted for that.
had to get nominated.
Well, that's criminal too.
Because out of all of the...
They
out of all of
obviously
the
saw The
nominees that
Lighthouse.
year-
They obviously saw it because it got nominated for Best Cinematography.
I agree.
They must not have been paying attention. Sorry. There's my Lighthouse rant that I've been sitting on for 6 months.
It's probably all these Academy voters who are like 6 billion years old. They're like, I don't understand it. It's too weird. Where's Singing in the Rain?
Yeah, but freaking Joker gets all these nominations, which I don't hate Joker. I'm not gonna sit here and bash Joker. It's fine, but like
That's all right. I did plenty of it.
Joker feels like a studio filmmaker trying to make an art house movie, and that's literally what it is. Because Todd Phillips is a studio filmmaker trying to make an art house movie.
Joker was the Green Book of this year. Last year's
Joker
Oscars.
is like all the nominations it got were kind of like all the nominations Black Panther got, where it's like it just feels like the Academy's trying to be,
Like
you know, relevant or socially relevant. So it's like, well, what if we just prop up this, you know, popular movie because it's kind of, sort of talks about issues in a heavy-handed way, and that's, you know, we love heavy-handed issue movies.
I hated
like
his
Green
little,
Book.
I hated his little speech at the end where he's like, "This is what you get when you cross a mentally handicapped person with that." I'm like, "Oh my god, this is the most on the nose thing I've ever seen in my life." Like,
I know.
I mean, it's pretty reflective of the movie.
You
itself,
literally just
though.
spelt out the plot of the entire movie, like on the screen. Like you should have had Joaquin Phoenix just pull out a whiteboard and say and just write like what the movie's supposed to be about. I'm not mad about him winning the best actor because
He did a decent job.
I mean he was great in the movie.
He did a good job. He did a good job.
It's like, yeah, at the end, he should have just like screamed, "We live in a society," and then shot him, and just left it at that.
His whole speech was kind of like the movie. It kind of meandered for a good amount of time, and then he summarized what the whole movie was, and then he like went out like a light with a smile on his face as he walked back down. Only thing he was missing was blunt force trauma to the head.
Yeah, I feel like if you had like a more interesting director direct that movie, it would have been a lot better. Like
I want to see a version of Joker where instead of the speech he actually gives at the end, he gives Joaquin Phoenix's like acceptance speech, where he's talking about like milk or something or whatever. We talk about like milk and climate change, and then shoots him.
We need to stop eating meat, guys, and we need to stop farming meat. Like, it's not cool, bro. And you should come out to the commune with me and Rooney sometime, and like we'll give you like grass-based like curry meat, and it's good. No, Joaquin, I'm good.
he's a weird dude, but I mean he's.
I mean, he
brilliant.
grew up in a cult and watched
That's
his own
true.
brother die in front of him, so
That's true.
that's gonna mess him up a bit.
That's true. He is a master though.
He's done everything.
He's possibly
too,
the
like,
best actor
acting-wise.
working today. I can't think of somebody who is obviously a better actor than him.
Like,
I mean, now that Daniel Day-Lewis is retired and Philip Seymour
For the second
Hoffman's
time.
dead,
Yeah. And Tom Hardy doesn't act anymore.
what are you talking about, dude? He was in a movie that was released this year.
Oh, he's in freaking Capone. Who wants to watch that?
Dude, he still works.
Did you guys watch it already?
no.
No.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't mustered
terrible.
up I haven't mustered. I know. I saw the trailer. I was like, okay, like has to have some redeeming qualities. And I watched it. It's like, ugh, this looks so boring.
I think was Venom 2 supposed to come out this year? Because he's also in that.
I still haven't
What do
seen
you mean
Venom.
Tom Hardy's retiring?
Oh, okay. So he's been in 2 movies in 3 years, and all of a sudden he's freaking Nicolas Cage.
I mean, he was in Peaky Blinders in the 5th season, so
Speaking of
he's working regularly.
Speaking of Nicolas Cage, in the tradition of our podcast being, I don't know if your podcasts have been all over the place since I left. Or
They're
since
still all over the place.
Okay, good.
Not quite as much as this is right
Have
now.
you guys
but yeah,
seen?
usually.
Have you guys seen Color Out of Space?
No.
That one's awesome. That was it's a horror movie. It's like a body horror movie. It's based off a H.P. Lovecraft short story.
I was gonna say, I know like Annihilation is pretty close to A Color Out of Space. The movie, I mean, because it departs pretty severely from the book.
Yeah, not really.
Okay, I've read A Color Out of Space.
Oh.
And Annihilation's very close to it.
Okay. I mean, it's a similar idea.
Good job burying the lead, Gabe.
It's a similar idea. I mean, the way it unfolds is completely different.
Yeah.
Like, the premise, I guess, is similar, but the plot is completely different. Nicolas Cage, though, he's just an artist, man. That's all I can say about him. His accent changes like 45 times in the movie. It doesn't make any sense. It's the most bizarre, and I am a Nicolas Cage savant, and it might be the most bizarre Nicolas Cage performance I've ever seen.
Speaking of bizarre Nicolas Cage performances, I do think Vampire's Kiss is still available on Prime.
I think it is, and I have not seen
That's
that.
I've
seen
that's
all
like
the
the
clips.
holy grail of Nicolas Cage performances.
Yeah. It's the beginning and the ending of all of his great crazy performances. It's just weird to me that he's kind of like how Adam Sandler will put out a good performance like once every decade. I feel like Nicolas Cage is kind of like that now.
Yeah.
But even his good performances though are still in like weird movies. Like Mandy is a very Nicolas Cage movie, but like his performance is genuinely good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have got to see Wild at Heart if you love Nicolas Cage.
I want to, but it's not available anywhere.
You have to just buy it on Blu-ray.
Okay, well
and
maybe
watch
you can come over to the new pad and we'll watch it on Blu-ray one of these days.
Okay. Because that movie's amazing, and it literally just starts off with Nicolas Cage stomping a guy's head in and then pointing dramatically at people. And it just gets crazier from there.
I want to like start a campaign to eliminate the notion that Nicolas Cage is a bad actor, because he's not. He's amazing, and he deserves to be recognized among the greatest of all time. And I will die on that hill.
Someone did a video about how Nicolas Cage, like, he purposefully approaches every single project with a different, with like something different in mind for when it comes to acting. Like he could have gone like a pretty traditional route when it came to acting, but he decided to just always try something new. Try going way over the top here. Try going really conservative here.
I don't think
Well,
somebody did a video. I think he said that in a video.
Yeah. Well, I know David Lynch and Ethan Hawke are both huge fans of his.
Has he ever been in a movie with
they
Ethan
ever
Hawke?
work in it? Like, why don't
I
they
don't
work
know.
together
I think
in a movie? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Ethan Hawke, I just have heard him say, like, he loves Nicolas Cage and thinks he's a genius. I mean, I know Cage's whole thing, it's kind of like... He's kind of like Toshiro Mifune, where it's completely over the top, but he can do, like... He can basically just do anything on screen that he wants
Like,
to.
he can pull it in if he wants to, but he chooses to choose, like, really out there choices when he's
Well, and
acting.
I also know Nicolas Cage he's a big fan of German expressionist movies from the 1920s and 30s, and bases a lot of his acting style off of those.
Oh, interesting.
Interestingly enough, here's some trivia for you. Gabe might already know this, but I guess for Mandy, Panos Cosmatos wanted Nicolas Cage to play Jeremiah Sand, the cult leader, but he wanted to play Red, and he was only going to do it if he could play Red. And I think it worked out. But I mean, Nicolas Cage as Jeremiah Sand would have been amazing, but
Yeah.
I am not upset with what we got.
They should have done the Tom Hardy legend thing where they just cast him in both roles. And you just haven't seen Nicolas Cage killing himself.
That would have been amazing, because like we'll do bearded Cage and clean shaven Cage. Which I'm gonna say I prefer bearded Cage. Clean shaven Cage is these days for sure.
It hides his neck.
He doesn't look so
His
good.
beard.
Yeah, he's getting older. I mean, he's an older guy now, and Color Out of Space, it's like he's a little hard to look at just because his hairline's so weird. But
Yeah.
when he's got the beard, at least it's like kind of palatable.
It's always weird when you see those guys whose hairline starts like in the middle of their head, but they still have very long hair.
Where like the majority of their face is just forehead, and it just like recedes way back.
There's a guy, John Dodson, whose hairline starts like...
Is that the UFC fighter?
Yeah, his hairline, like he still has an afro, but his hairline starts in line with his ears. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like his hair is like a hood that he only pulled halfway over.
Oh man.
Hey Gabe, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
What have you been watching lately?
I was gonna say, like, we were talking about this podcast being all over the place, and we were still on Austin's "What have you been watching lately?"
I know I've been thinking about it for the last like 20 minutes.
I watched a
I didn't even gonna talk about The Lodge.
I
literally talked about The Invisible Man for 90 seconds and then
That's
because
because I don't give two shits about The Lodge, Austin. That's why. No, I'm just kidding.
But dude, Thorin Oakenshield is in The Lodge. The guy that plays Thorin
Dude, Thorin
Oakenshield.
Oakenshield was
Richard
also in
Armitage?
like a movie about about hurricanes.
He was also in Hannibal. He played Francis Dollarhide.
I gotta say, Richard Armitage is such a cool name for such a okay actor.
I like him.
I like him too.
Like I think,
Yeah.
but maybe that's just the fact that like I do think that Peter Jackson is a good filmmaker because he can take actors who are not necessarily good in other things and make them.
Wait. Is anybody saying Peter Jackson isn't a good filmmaker? Because if they say that, they should be in prison.
We debated it.
No, we debated if he's still a good filmmaker.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
Because there was a time where he was a brilliant man.
But someone, not to go off too far, but someone brought up a good point. It was the OneRing.net that brought up a good point. They're like, it's great that Zack Snyder is getting his own and David Ayer might be getting his own like director's cut. But like, what about like the complete injustice that was given to Peter Jackson when making the Hobbit movies? Like the fact that there was never supposed to be an awkward love triangle between two elves and a dwarf. Like the amount of cuts that Jackson had to make and studio interference, like one, Peter Jackson never got to make the Hobbit movies he wanted, and two, Guillermo Del Toro never got to make the Hobbit movies that he wanted to make. So it does put a different light on, for me at least, on like the Hobbits as being like, very similar situation to like Batman v Superman, Justice League, Suicide Squad, and yet two of the three movies for most people are still fairly watchable, and the third movie of the extended edition is just a riot of goofiness.
Speaking of Guillermo del Toro and what I've been watching lately,
Yes.
I managed to finally catch Crimson Peak after wanting to see it forever.
Yes. Oh my God. I've been wanting to ask you about this.
It's pretty good. Like, it's an entertaining kind of schlocky, soapy drama. The first 15 minutes or so are pretty annoying because it's so fast-paced that, like, there's no breathing room for anything. Like, it's kind of got that Baz Luhrmann quality where there's no space between people speaking. Like, the second one person's line ends, or, like, not even the second, just instantaneously the other person starts talking. Mm-hmm. So it kind of makes me feel like I'm having a panic attack. But once that's sort of over with, it's really good. Like, it's ultra stylish. It's really colorful. It has a lot of Del Toro's hallmarks, like ghosts being heavy-handed metaphors for things, and then the voiceover of the movie also explains it to you. It's got gruesome and painful and awkward facial injuries. Like,
oh my God. Yes, that's right. We were talking about. That's why I wanted you to see it.
yeah, like one of the main
Tom
characters
Hiddleston's
gets
face.
stabbed in the face, like not in the head or just in the face, and dies. Similar to how people get stabbed in the face in Pan's Labyrinth, and Michael Stuhlbarg gets shot in the face in Shape of Water.
Spoiler alert.
Charlie Hunnam has the worst, most unidentifiable accent I've ever heard.
Yes, he does.
He's supposed to play an American, I think, but everything that comes out of his mouth is just utter garbage. And it's great
has
because
the
no one
shit
cares. It
Atlantic
doesn't bother
accent.
anyone that his accent is just terrible. And I think he swaps terrible accents with Jessica Chastain because she's supposed to be British, like she plays Tom Hiddleston's sister, but she just speaks with an American accent and occasionally drops the R off the end of words. But yeah, that movie is ultra schlocky, but it's a good time. It's fun.
is. I love the fact that Charlie Hunnam's character is like this medical officer who moonlights as a detective. That's my favorite thing in the whole movie, and I wish they had more of that in it. Like, because that got me going. I was like, I want to see a series of Charlie Hunnam solving crimes as like a medical examiner.
The movie just
like
needs
Quincy.
more Charlie Hunnam and Jessica Chastain talking to each other.
Yeah.
So we can have their awful accents going like head to head. Because it's just, anyone who's seen Pacific Rim and kind of noticed that Charlie Hunnam's accent is like just barely okay and then occasionally flies off the handle. Like the parts where it flies off the handle is just him the entire movie. But yeah, it's a solid witness. I had a good time. I also watched Kronos, which is Del Toro's very first movie, and I was kind of expecting like a really dark and I was expecting something completely different from what it was. It's very comic booky. I thought it was going to be like a dark, depressing movie, but it's actually got a lot of like goofy humor, and it's like ultra stylized, and it's not as good as I hoped it would be. Like it's like a low witness maybe.
So it's not the bad taste of Del Toro movies.
No, I mean it's really slick and professional. Like even though it's in Spanish, Ron Perlman is in it for some reason.
Does he speak Spanish?
A little bit, yeah.
Como te amas?
It's weird. I think Ron Perlman went through some weird phase in the 90s where he was in a lot of European movies. And there's a strange connection between Guillermo Del Toro and Jean-Pierre Jeunet, where their movies are... their filmmaking style is very, very similar. Ron Perlman is in City of Lost Children, which is a French movie, and he speaks French the entire movie. And that's a Jean-Pierre Jeunet film. And if you see it and didn't know like who made it, it could be easily confused for a Del Toro movie. But I mean, Cronos has an interesting idea at the heart of it, where it's like a vampire movie, but it's like an ancient Spanish alchemist creates a device that makes you live forever, and the way it makes you live forever is it turns you into a vampire. And which is like a neat concept, but the movie's just kind of a sappy drama, to be honest. Which, you know, maybe it's like, I don't know. Maybe
he just likes sappy romances.
He just likes sappy dramas, I guess. He started off with a sappy drama. Then his movies kind of since then are more cynical, I guess, and then has sort of returned to sappy dramas, at least with The Shape of Water. And it's also...
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, and I was also going to say, like, it's interesting that, you know, vampires classically were kind of used to represent the parasitic way that, like, old world aristocrats feed off of the peasantry. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, you know, Parasite, I guess. But then Del Toro's vampire movie seems to be more about like aging and addiction and things like that. So it's interesting that he kind of repurposes vampires as metaphors for other stuff.
Del Toro kind of reminds me of like I can draw a connection to Tim Burton, not necessarily not in the obvious way of like they both use a lot of like expressionism and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of people think that Del Toro's movies are one thing and they turn out to be something else, which I feel like is what happens with... did I say Steven Spielberg? I meant Tim Burton.
You said Tim Burton.
Okay, good. Tim Burton's movies always seem like they're going to be like really like gothic and dark, and they all turn out to be really like generic, just with like a really interesting coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
And like I feel like Del Toro's but like Del Toro does like the shell game in a different way. Like his movies look dark and gothic, but really they're about like really like kind of almost like soapy subject matter.
Well, they're always either about soapy or political subject matter, or both.
Or both, yeah. And it's like you don't really like with The Shape of Water. It's like, oh, this. I'm not expecting like, you know, a heartwarming love story here. This looks like a creepy like, you know, fucking I don't even know. Not Dr. Zhivago. That'd be funny if it was like Dr. Zhivago. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari kind of thing going on. Yeah. And really it's just like, oh no, it's pretty like, you know, there's actually a lot of romance in it.
I mean, the thing I found frustrating about The Shape of Water is it's just so ham-fisted. Which, I mean, Del Toro is weird.
I would say it's more on the nose, too. It's very on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, Del Toro is weird in that his movies themselves are pretty subtle, but they always have these bookending voiceovers where the main character has a voiceover at the beginning, there's no voiceover for the rest of the movie, and then there's voiceover at the end. And the voiceover at the end always echoes the voiceover at the beginning, where in the beginning they usually make a statement or ask a question, and then the ending voiceover answers the question or elaborates on that initial statement and explains the themes of the movie to you. So he does that in Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone, Crimson Peak, Shape of Water.
If only he did it in Pacific Rim.
I know. Well, I just realized I've seen every single one of his movies except for Mimic now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I like his movies generally, but it's just interesting that he does it so often where, like, in Crimson Peak, it starts off with what's-her-face, the boring main character saying, ghosts are real, whatever. Ghosts are real, this much I know. And then at the end of the movie is like, ghosts are real, this much I know, blah, blah, blah. Ghosts are a metaphor for this, that, and the other. It's like, oh, thanks for explaining that to me. It's not like I didn't get that from watching the entire fucking thing. But anyway.
I feel like that's just Guillermo Del Toro as a storyteller, though. Like, I feel like if you bought a comic book from him, there would be like a block of text at the beginning and then a block of text at the end. And I know he's big into like fairy tales, and they do that a lot in
That's
fairy
a
tales.
huge
It's like,
fairy tale thing, yeah.
and so like I think he likes to summarize. Like I enjoy the way he plays in genre. I can see how that might be a bit annoying, but I'll
It is
take
what it
'cause
is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Because yeah, it's like he could drop those voiceovers pretty easily, and the movies wouldn't change a whole lot. I was rewatching the opening of The Shape of Water, where Richard Jenkins is giving that ultra heavy-handed fairy tale intro to the story, where it's like, you know, it was the last years of the reign of a fair prince. It's like, oh, don't fucking talk about JFK like that. And, you know, he's like kind of mythologizing all this stuff, and it's like, what should I say? What should I tell you? Should I tell you about this or that, or the monster who? And then as he says the monster, Michael Shannon's name pops up on the credits, who threatened to tear it all apart. And I'm like, oh god, could you be more on the nose, dude?
Oh man.
It's like there's an episode of Futurama where the characters are having an argument, and then the professor just blurts out, "Animals don't have war. Who's the real animals?" Just as a non sequitur. And I feel like that's what The Shape of Water is as a movie.
Or like, yeah, but as we've kind of talked about, I don't know, Austin. I don't know how you feel about these things. Like, I don't mind heavy-handed commentary in movies when it's done in almost like a goofy way. Like, I forgot what movie we were talking about where it was like really obvious and really obtuse, but we're still okay with it. But like sometimes I'm okay with it, or most of the time I'm okay with it, but sometimes it gets like super like, I think when it's too earnest, it's like, you're missing the mark, guys.
Gosh, sorry, I just like zoned out for a while so I've seen 2 Del Toro movies, I think, all the way through. I've seen Hellboy and Pacific Rim. I've seen half of Pan's Labyrinth. I need to finish that, and I think that's it. But no, I hate ham-fisted messages or whatever crap. Yeah.
Yeah, to kind of, I guess, move on from Del Toro, you know, you mentioned he seems to find a lot of inspiration in German Expressionism, as does Nick Cage. I also watched The Night of the Hunter, which is ultra, like, German Expressionist-y. It's kind of a strange movie, because it's pretty good for the most part. Like, it's ultra stylish, like, a lot of the performances are really good, and it's very... Its outlook is very interesting in that, like, Robert Mitchum's character is clearly just horrible, but everyone seems to think he's a good guy just because he pretends to be very godly.
That's the one that Spike Lee took a line from for Do the Right Thing, right?
Maybe.
Is that the one?
I mean...
Where he's in like a cafe?
I don't know. I haven't seen Do the Right Thing. I mean, Robert Mitchum basically plays he's a priest who's also a serial killer and runs around murdering widows and, you know, stealing their property. And it's about a pair of kids who have to try and kind of escape his grasp when he tries to become their stepfather. But
okay, yeah, that is the movie. That is the movie.
It's really good. It's just like, it's very, you know, dark and intense and stylish, and then just really stumbles hard across the finish line, where, like, you know, you'd think they're gonna have like some big confrontation at the end, but instead Robert Mitchum's character just kind of gets caught by the police somehow, and that's it, basically. Like, it's really bizarre, but it's an interesting movie to watch now, because I think one thing that I've been continually frustrated by is how stupid everyone on the face of the earth seems to be these days, where they'll just, like, there's certain signifiers that award someone credibility in the eyes of certain segments of the population, and it's different for different groups of people. But if they hear something from what they considered to be a credible source, they will believe it 100% without any question. And then if they hear something from a source they deem to not be credible, they will believe the opposite 100% without question. And all of the the kids are aware, or no, not even the kids. One of the kids is aware of what's going on. Like, he can smell that Robert Mitchum there's something wrong with him, because there is very clearly something wrong with him. And then everyone else is just completely taken in by him because it's the South and he's a preacher. And he quotes scripture all the time, even though he doesn't really know what he's talking about. And it's funny because at the end of the movie, the kids end up getting taken in. They're sort of found by this very religious lady who raises other orphans. And, she takes them in and takes care of them. And then Robert Mitchum eventually finds them, and he shows up on her doorstep. And he's like, oh, I'm a preacher. And he starts quoting scripture and stuff. And she looks at him and is like, you have no idea what you're talking about, do you?
Is the woman played by Lillian Gish?
Probably. But it's just, I don't know. There seem to be a lot of Robert Mitchums out there in the world, and no one bothers to smell the shit they're shoveling. But, it's a good movie.
It's weird that because it's directed by Charles Laughton, who was known for playing the Hunchback of Notre Dame and like always mutilating his face or whatever for roles he did. So it's kind of interesting to see him like, oh, I'm gonna take on this like very prestige-y, artsy movie. It's cool.
There's a lot of cool lighting effects in it too.
The cinematography, Stanley Cortez. I've never heard of him. That's interesting. Like, it pops up every now and then, and I'm like, okay, well, I know it's obviously in the Criterion Collection. And every now and then I'm like, maybe I should just go about and watch it, but it never really interests me. But I know it's like one of those movies that's just like really heavily praised.
Yeah. I feel like we've lost Austin, so here's my attempt to bring him back in. I also watched Apocalypto.
Oh, what'd you think?
I had another way to bring him back in, but that'll work.
Question, did the subtitles work for you?
I mean, they worked well enough. I imagine the dialogue is meant to be pretty basic. Mm-hmm. But the subtitles seemed timed correctly with what the emotions of the scene were.
Okay. Yeah, mine were like, when I watched it, somebody would say something and like 2 minutes later it would pop up.
Oh, yeah, that's
But I was like so sucked in, and I was like, who cares what they're saying anyway? It's probably all stupid.
I mean, that's a good sign, though. Like, if you can just ignore what they're saying and enjoy the movie for what it is.
Yeah.
Did you end up turning off the subtitles?
No, I kept them on because like I wanted some context of what was happening. Because there are scenes where like stuff is happening, and you're like, wait, like what's happening? So you want to know exactly, but
yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was like solid. I don't know what kind of a budget Gibson had for this, but like the middle of the movie is great and has this very like epic feeling to it. It's very dramatic and colorful and like really good looking, and I love basically like everything after they leave the village to where kind of the chase begins, I thought is great. Everything outside of that feels like ultra hokey because there's a lot of weird slow motion. There's a lot of weird editing, which I think is just to hide areas where they couldn't spend a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Like, it's weird. All the animals look like Muppets, like very clearly like Muppets.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, no, I mean, they obviously did use a real Black Panther or Black Jaguar for some of it, but when it was attacking somebody, it's obviously a Muppet. Or a puppet.
Yeah, but it's like it's weird because it's like it's not even a good puppet or like an animatronic or something. It's like
it's obviously somebody's holding a freaking hand puppet.
Yeah, it bounces up and down like Kermit the Frog,
Yeah, but that wasn't enough for me. I enjoyed the whole movie, like the whole chase scene at the end. But I get what you're saying. It does feel cheap in some ways.
Yeah.
I think he probably didn't have a big budget because they're like, Mel Gibson is like, I want to make a movie about the Mayans. We're gonna use authentic Mayan dialogue, and they're like, wait, you want us to give you money to make this?
I know. All unknown actors.
Like, at least with the Passion of the Christ, we have a built-in base. Like, who the hell is gonna want to watch this? So I think he spent his entire budget on the big Mayan city.
Yeah.
In the middle of the
Well,
movie.
I mean, and
decapitated.
You can tell
bodies.
because it looks amazing.
Yeah, yeah. No, that whole scene. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised, like, because like when I was watching it, like the first like half of the movie, it feels really low budget. Not like in a bad way. It's just like nothing crazy is happening.
It felt low budget in a bad way to me.
Oh well, I don't think so. Like, but when they get to the city, I was like taken aback. I was like, whoa, this looks good.
Yeah. I thought it was also kind of weird for a movie that's so dark, at least in terms of its subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of like kind of cornball sentimentality in it.
I mean, that's kind of Mel Gibson's
felt
thing, though.
Sort of out of place. Kind of, but like in say Hacksaw Ridge, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like it's a very sentimental movie, and the subject matter, while kind of dark, is sentimental. Hacksaw Ridge is dark but hopeful, whereas Apocalypto is pretty bleak generally. Like it's about a civilization that is essentially lost to history. So there is that kind of the erasure of everything is always in the back of your mind, I think, when you're watching it. And it's also just incredibly brutal.
God, yeah. How many decapitated freaking heads happen in that movie?
Yeah, although it doesn't linger on the gore as much as I thought it would. It's like a lot of it's from really far away.
Yeah.
And there's also things like, where when they're traveling and they meet the girl who's got the plague, and the dude whacks her with the stick, and suddenly she's possessed and starts like prophesizing, and the lighting changes and stuff. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was genuinely confused. Oh god, that must have been so bad, because I was genuinely confused watching that part. I'm like, wait, what's happening right now?
I mean, that's
even with subtitles.
I get, yeah, I get like some of the issues you have with it. They didn't stick out as much to me. Like I thoroughly enjoyed the whole movie. But I mean, I get like the puppet is distracting, and some of the weird cinematography choices are a little distracting sometimes. Like you said, some of the weird editing. But I like how like stripped down and raw it feels. Like it feels like it doesn't feel like an American made that movie, which I'm wondering if that was intentional. Like it feels like it seems like a Guillermo Del Toro produced Mexican movie, which I'm wondering if that was very intentional for him. Like if he was like, okay, I want this to feel like authentic. And that's one thing I appreciate Mel Gibson. I feel like he's very keen on like not necessarily authenticity of history, because obviously his movies have a lot of historical inaccuracies, but I feel like he does do his due diligence in trying to make it authentic to the time, at least.
Yeah,
because I don't know a lot of filmmakers who would. I don't know a lot of American filmmakers who would have had the balls to make a movie like fresh off of Passion of the Christ, which was like the highest grossing rated R movie ever at the time. I don't know a lot of filmmakers who would have had the balls to be like, oh, I'm gonna make a movie with a now extinct language. With a bunch of actors that nobody knows, and it's gonna be great. So I appreciate that. I appreciate his. I wish that he didn't do what he did, because I feel like we missed out on a lot of good movies over the last like decade and a half.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. He's a solid filmmaker. It's just he always seems to find himself in director jail or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, considering like superstar actors, obviously a lot of actors turn director, but out of like superstars turn director, like I can't think of somebody who's better than him.
I know.
Because I feel like a lot of times when actors become directors, like they all make like the same kind of movies. Like they just make like Oscar Beatty type of movies. But I feel like Mel Gibson, like he's actually trying to make like movies that go a little bit further than that.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to like bring something to the table in terms of like epic scale or awesome action or just like different. And I mean, even like Hacksaw Ridge was a pretty straightforward, in terms of story, is a pretty straightforward World War II movie. But what sets it apart is all of its epic, gory action stuff. So, because I mean, on the surface, Hacksaw Ridge, like it's pretty conventional. It's pretty conventional. Like Andrew Garfield,
the character himself is pretty interesting. Like that's what's kind of the more interesting thing about the whole movie is the main character.
Yeah, and and I feel
the actual process of telling the story is pretty like straightforward.
Yeah. So I'd be interesting to see where, because I know he was supposed to do a Wild Bunch remake, which sounds awesome. I don't know if he's gonna do that. And then he was talking about some movie, I think that took place during the Renaissance. something about some
Oh, yeah,
Italian
yeah.
family. I forget.
You want to do something about the Medici family.
Yeah, which I'd prefer to see him stick in like the action, big scale war kind of realm.
Well, but he does like he likes to make historical movies, which is hilarious because he's kind of got a bad reputation, I think, for historical
Bastardizing
inaccuracies.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, like the Braveheart is almost a complete work of fiction, but I love Braveheart.
Yeah. I know.
And from what I was looking into Apocalypto, from my understanding, it's definitely got some historical inaccuracies.
Well, it's interesting because there's some stuff that is pretty inaccurate, but there's also some stuff that's really accurate. Like
Yeah.
the chalk mines or whatever. Like that, a lot of historians believe that the Mayans were so obsessed with harvesting, that limestone powder or whatever to paint all their temples white, that it basically like crippled their empire.
Interesting.
So it's interesting that detail was so prominent in a story where their civilization is meant to be on decline.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see where his career goes. I hope he can still keep directing movies. Obviously, as an actor, he's still entertaining as hell to watch. But I'm almost more interested in seeing him direct than I am act. Like I don't mind seeing him pop up in like Dragged Across Concrete, like those kind of movies every now and then. I don't need to see him in other crap. Like I remember that rumor going around. Actually, I don't even think it was a rumor. I think he confirmed it. I think he said that they were talking to him about doing Suicide Squad, but I don't know if he confirmed that. He might have. I think he might have mentioned like, oh yeah, like they talked to me about Suicide Squad and we're like thinking about it, which would have been fascinating. I don't think I want that. I think I'd rather him make his own original stuff. But it would have been interesting. Would have been gory as hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope he. I'm interested to see what he has on the docket, but we'll see.
Austin, how was The Loft?
You mean the Lodge?
The Lodge. Yeah, not The Loft. The Loft is.
That's the
was a
one with
horrible
Carl
movie.
Urban, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I hear it's terrible.
That's what I hear too. Even though Carl Urban's almost always awesome in everything he's in.
Did either of you guys see Goodnight Mommy?
Yes.
No.
It's from those directors, and they have really effed up sensibilities.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, no, The Lodge is really good because, like, it's very, like, it's a movie that we could have made if we were able to rent out, like, a big Airbnb in the middle of the snow for a month. Like, it's very, like, very basic. I think there's only 2 locations in the whole movie, and almost all of it's spent at The Lodge. And I don't want to get into it without spoiling, because it does take a lot of, like, twists and turns, and a lot of, like, effed up stuff happens, so I don't want to get too much into it, but it's really good. It's not too long. Riley Keough? Is that how you say her last name?
Sure.
I think so.
I think so too.
I think she's, like, established herself as one of the better horror movie actresses around, because I feel like she's popped up in a bunch. But yeah, no, it's a solid movie. I definitely recommend it. It's really well shot. It's really well acted. It's not a schlocky horror movie at all. Yeah, it's a good movie. Y'all should watch it. It's on Hulu if you got the Hulu.
Well, yeah, I guess I could watch
If you like, if you like
good.
paying Disney more money.
Disney and News Corp.
Ooh.
Who the hell's News Corp? We don't need to
Rupert
get into
Murdoch's evil empire.
Oh.
It's Disney's Australian counterpart.
Gotcha.
Wait.
Should probably wrap up soon. It's getting a little long here.
Yeah, you really haven't listened to any of the episodes, have you?
No, who has time for that crap? I bet you're not reading all my articles.
I read as many as can come up, but a lot of them don't come up on my Facebook wall anymore.
Ugh, that sucks.
Also, I'm not co-writing the articles with you,
Well,
or was co-founder of the website.
oh, who cares? Makes it
but
worse.
During the year I was reading, you could tell which ones I was reading because I would probably like them, and then I would look down and see like someone cuss you out as a writer and be like, "Bro, read the fucking article," because they'd be like, "This is just more fear mongering." I'm like, "No, if you read the article, you'll see right here, 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 and here that it is not in fact fear-mongering. That thing that you're talking about, he as in Austin has already referenced it here, and here. I never gave your name away, but I'd always say, oh no, I think the author's doing a great job. Look at this.
Well,
he even covers this part.
Well, I appreciate that because I don't even look at the comments anymore because it's all just.
Yeah, that's why they say that a lot of people who go to YouTube, like the first thing you do is you just turn off comments because the majority of them aren't helpful, and like the majority of them think they know what they're talking about and they don't, and they're like way off base.
That's the thing, and criticism is very important, but like if I wrote the wrong name, that's totally fine. You can tell me I wrote the wrong name, and that's good because then I can fix it. But if you're just like, oh, like, this is clickbait, bullcrap, I'm like, dude, it's not clickbait if there's actual substance in the article. Like, every headline is meant to get you to click on it. Like, if headlines, if I wrote every headline not trying to get people to click on it, I would make no money whatsoever.
You would lose your job.
Yeah.
That's the thing that drives me nuts is, like, I hate I think there's a line. There's like a very delicate line where it's like it's just enough clickbaitiness, and it's really hard to find. But I mean, if you can find, like, you'll always get clicks if you can find that perfect, the Goldilocks clickbait.
Yeah, no,
line.
Exactly.
Like, it's hard to find. Like that, I hate to say that's the best way I can describe it, but like there have been articles that I've looked at and I'm like, well, this is misleading. Well, this is misleading, and then one where I'm like, oh, well, that's piquing my interest. And again, maybe I'm a bad like barometer for that because I tend to like things that present something different or interesting and don't end on like, it would be amazing if this happened. Do you want to see what's inside? Here's a list of 10. Also, at least you don't bury the lead. Like a lot of the time, people will like bury the lead in the article by like giving like a really detailed summary of something that doesn't matter on it.
Dude, the worst is
really
fucking online recipes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Screw
Yeah,
online
you click on
recipes.
an online recipe.
Online
Like, how do I
recipes
make-
are the worst offender of that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you Google, like, okay, how do I make fried chicken? You click on the first recipe. It's like, I watched my father die when I was 8 years old. Blah, 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 blah.
The only thing he left me was a watch and a jar of half-used seasoning that I need.
Well, and
oh,
then,
by
yeah,
the way,
like
if you want
3
fried chicken,
pages
you need...
of text later, you get to the actual, it's like, okay, here's how you make fried chicken.
Yeah, does anybody... I want to
Yeah.
know the person that's, like, reading all the preamble. Like, who cares? I just want to know the recipe. Because, like, typically when you're looking up a recipe, you're, like, already about to start cooking. You don't have time to sit there and read a bunch of crap. Nor do you want to. It's one thing if I look up, how do I do... I don't know. But if it's like, if I'm looking up like specific things, then yeah, I'm gonna have to read a little bit more. But if it's something like a recipe, I literally just need bullet points. Speaking of clickbait, though, Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders, Gabe.
What?
Aaron Rodgers.
Are you trying to come up with headlines?
I already wrote something on Aaron Rodgers potentially coming to the Raiders, and it did big views.
Oh, I'm sure. Because it sounds insane.
It wasn't my original idea, though. I saw that it was kind of picking up steam on some websites because obviously the Packers drafted a quarterback, so the first thought is, ooh, what's going to happen to Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah. The Packers are somewhat unique in that they don't draft a quarterback with the expectation he'll start immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow that's like a unique proposition in the NFL, and I don't understand it at all.
Honestly, if I was
like
a team,
why it's unique. That's like a brilliant idea.
Well, yeah, no, because if you think about it, quarterback's the most this is why I don't understand why like the Packers got heat for this. I was like, quarterback is the most important position on the team.
Yes.
There's only a handful of elite quarterbacks in the end. There's Aaron Rodgers, there's Mahomes, there's Russell Wilson, and I don't even know if there's others that you can qualify as like elite. Like the rest are like, there's like really good, pretty good, average, below average. So like at least half of the NFL are probably not super content with their quarterback play.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, if I was a team and I didn't have, like, obviously if you have Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be around for the next 10, maybe probably even more. He's going to be around for
Not if he doesn't fix his footwork.
Yeah, well, he's going to be around. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be around for the next 15 years. So, yeah, you guys don't need to worry about it. But, like, if you're the Packers and Aaron Rodgers has an injury history and he's getting older.
36.
Yeah, he's 36. Like, why not just draft a quarterback? Like, why haven't the Patriots been drafting a quarterback every single season in the first round? And, like, in practice, like, obviously we don't know which quarterbacks are good, but, like, coaches can tell in practice if they have a good quarterback or not. And it's like, hey, like, maybe you draft one too early. Maybe Aaron Rodgers has another 5 years left in the tank. And Jordan Love, like, they don't think they're going to play him anytime. Like, they don't think they're going to play him by the time his contract is up. Like, why don't you, like, have a good season and then put Jordan Love out there, and then he throws 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. All of a sudden, you guys got a really good trade piece. That's the way I look at it. Is like, I don't know why teams aren't constantly drafting quarterbacks, because everybody wants them, and like, if Jimmy Garoppolo can get you a first-round pick after starting 4 games, I think it's smart to invest an early draft pick in a quarterback like every other year, unless you have like Mahomes or Russell Wilson or something. But even the Seahawks don't like Russell Wilson, so who knows? Did you guys see that story that the Seahawks, I don't know if it's true, but it was a rumor that the Seahawks tried to trade the Browns for their first-round pick that they used on Baker Mayfield. I guess the intention was to draft Baker Mayfield. So essentially, Russell Wilson for Baker Mayfield. And I think the Seahawks would have gotten more out of it, but for some reason the Seahawks hate Russell Wilson, even though he's like one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL.
And he won them their only Super Bowl.
Yeah, he won them a Super Bowl. He's never missed the playoffs in his entire career. I don't get it, but for some reason they don't like Russell Wilson, even though, like, you guys can have Derek Carr for him. I'll give you guys Derek Carr and our first round pick for the next 4 seasons.
Where
I like Derek Carr.
Where does Derek Carr sit for you? Like what tier? Like, obviously there's, the top tier of the best. Well, rate his progress in the under the wheels scale.
I think he's a solid witness.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I think he's a top 15 quarterback. And obviously you can cut this all out if you want. I think at this point we're just just talking.
No, just leave it in.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it in. This part I'm going to cut out, but the rest I'm going to leave in.
I think as a top 15 quarterback, he's definitely better. He's better than like the Baker Mayfields and like the Ryan Fitzpatricks of the world. He's not as good as like Ben Roethlisberger or like some of the more like, they're good, not well. Ben Roethlisberger was great for a second when he had like the best receiving core ever. I don't think he's gonna be as good without Antonio Brown this year, but
or his fucking kneecaps.
Yeah, or his kneecaps, or that, or his Samson beard that he cut off. But I would say Derek Carr. I think he's in that like that realm where he's like he's probably like as good as Dak Prescott, even though Dak Prescott's gonna make like $40 million.
I feel like Dak Prescott's overrated.
I think so too.
He might not be. But I also feel like I understand that, and I guess the proof is in the performance. But like I feel like, and I've gotten in trouble for things like this before, especially with like Rafael Nadal and fucking tennis. But like I feel like Patrick Mahomes is really good, but he has like very specific issues that no one has really been able to exploit yet, but will be exploited soon.
That's everyone. That's every athlete.
Yeah, we'll see.
Riding high.
The thing with Mahomes, like, obviously...
Well, my thing is his footwork. I can't believe, like, his footwork is horrible. And he got beat up a lot this season, didn't he?
Yeah, but his arm is, like, from another planet.
For now. But, like...
For now, for the next decade.
Well, I don't know. Like, some of those throws that are like, oh, man, isn't that an amazing throw?
This is the thing that not enough people talk about. The thing with Mahomes is, like, yes, he is great talent. He's a great player. He is in the perfect system, offensive system.
Yes,
He's
that
perfect
too.
coach. Literally the perfect
Andy Reid
coach
is a great coach.
and perfect skill players to utilize his skill set.
Yes.
Like, if you put him on the Browns, he would not be nearly as effective. If you put him even on the Raiders, like
I would.
He wouldn't be as effective.
And that's like, I think that's the thing is like I do feel bad because like I like to shit on Andy Reid. Probably not more than he shits, but well, also because for the longest time he just couldn't win a playoff game, and it was like the easiest thing to make fun of. And like it's nice that he's now been able to do that at the expense of being in the same conference as the Raiders. Kind of fucking sucks, But like I appreciate him as a coach. I appreciate what he did with Alex Smith when he brought in Alex Smith over there after the 49ers like took a shit on him. So like I do appreciate Andy Reid, and like it's nice that he got the monkey off of his back. But since he's on the Chiefs, fuck you.
You know, the 49ers are funny because they take craps on their quarterbacks constantly. Like they took a crap on Alex Smith, they took a crap on Kaepernick, and then there was rumors.
They took a cap on fucking Montana.
Well, and then there was rumors that they were thinking about dumping Garoppolo for Brady because of the Super Bowl.
I don't like the Yorks.
I mean, it's hard to like the 49ers, but I find it interesting, though, because I don't really have a lot of feelings about
they also
the
took a shit on the city of San Francisco. Let's not forget that.
So I didn't realize this.
There's lots of people taking a shit on the city of San Francisco.
I know. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, that's true.
But I didn't realize this because I'm an LA-based Raider fan. I guess, Bay Area Raider fans can't stand the 49ers. Like, they hate them.
Yep.
Yeah, because when the Raiders were playing the 49ers, or when the Super Bowl was happening, people were like, I think I'd rather the Chiefs win than the 49ers. I'm like, how? How can you possibly root for the Chiefs over the 49ers as a Raiders fan? Apparently, the hate runs deep in the Bay Area for the 49ers.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. Yeah, there's a lot of conflict and a lot of issue between them. Yeah. That's why like Greg Papa becoming the play-by-play for the 49ers and listening to go touchdown San Francisco is like the biggest. It's like the biggest fucking 2x4 up my ass.
Matt, I just had a very interesting idea. Raiders play the Falcons in Atlanta this year in November.
They do.
Should we go?
Maybe. The stadium is still pretty new, so the tickets are still pretty fucking expensive. But I was actually wondering if my brother was gonna want to fly out and do that since he was
I just write it off. I just write it off on my taxes. It's a business expense.
Because it's a business expense for you.
Yeah, no, that is a business expense for sure. So, plane ticket and all.
That's nice.
Yeah. So no, we should.
Can you get a press pass?
Not yet. I don't know. I don't know how I'm supposed to get that, but possibly one day. I don't really know if it would help me that much, but we'll see. You can watch all the press conferences online. The only thing that's different is that you can't ask them questions.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to get on the conference calls with Mike Mayock. They won't get back to me. I'm like, dude, I run a Raider Facebook with 50,000 followers. Y'all need to at least get back to me. I want to ask Mayock some questions.
Hold his feet to the fire.
Yeah.
Speak truth to power.
Yeah. Mike Mayock will speak truth to power and be like,
Mike Mayock's not even powerful on his own team.
No.
It's all Gruden. But we should probably wrap this up. I gotta go.
Okay.
But hey, it's been a pleasure. Glad we can get the ball rolling on this. I'll try to start working on the website soon. And yeah, hopefully we can get that Under the Wheels 2.0 website up and running. Domain names are super cheap, so I'll try to register that too. I think a domain name's like $12 a year, so
That's not that bad.
Yeah. Obviously, all the other stuff like ads and stuff like that is very expensive. Well, can be very expensive, but it works. But we'll talk about that more. I feel like we should probably have a call that's not podcast related about what the plan is for everything, just so we can all be on the same page with that. But yeah, will you have an outro or anything that you do, or will we just stop talking?
I mean, that's been what, like 3 weeks in the can? We just threw 3 weeks in the can under the wheels.
Yep,
yeah,
pretty much.
About the right time. Yeah. 3 can. We do have some things we have to plug, even though they're in progress. I don't know if Gabe, you want to take it away?
Oh shit! Let's see if I can remember any of these.
Yeah, right. That's what I was just thinking. I was about to end it, and I was like, "Oh wait, fuck, we've got."
All right,
I'm
podcast
interested.
is.
Wait, do we have sponsors now? What the hell are you guys plugging? Go ahead.
All the outlets. So podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Be sure to leave a review, rate it. Our website, until Austin, builds us a better one. It's underthewheels.wixsite.com/blog. Also, send questions, comments, and concerns to underthewheelspodcast@gmail.com.
You can rate us and stuff too, please.
like us on Facebook, and I think that's it, right?
I think that's it. I'm gonna run the music today. So music's by Mike. By the way, in Saving Private Ryan, there's a great clip of Tom Hanks going, "Mike," and so we're gonna be hearing that from now on.
What?
For the foreseeable future. Anytime we plug the music by Mike, and I think that's all of the plugs we
Wait,
have.
is this the
right?
mic that we all know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. My thoughts on the
I guess-
music are known, so don't need to get into it.
No, we don't. On that note, I'm Matthew,
I'm Austin.
I'm Gabe.
and you've just been Under the Wheels.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You guys can?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think I'm all set up. Sorry if it sounds weird when I send it to you.
Goodwill.
Turn
Hunting.
off your damn vibrator, dude.
Who are you talking to?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
heard
know.
a freaking loud vibrate, dude. We're recording.
Was that your?
That wasn't
your-
me.
It wasn't me. Okay,
I'm
whatever.
literally.
Are you sure it wasn't your wife's vibrator?
I heard that vibrate again. Somebody's messing with me.
There is
don't worry, I
a
know whose that
fly
is.
in my room, so I think it's passing by the microphone.
Okay. I hear something in the background. Just, I don't know if somebody
So
has the
do
TV
I.
on.
Oh, is it mine? It's probably mine. Hold on one second. Let me check something here.
I hear it sounds like a woman talking.
Yeah, it is. It's Aaliyah. She's in the other room.
All right, that's fine. I don't care.
Let me check. You know what? You're gonna hear it on your end, but it shouldn't be on my microphone.
No worries. You guys still there? Did I lose you guys?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, there was a little static, and it all just went away. So now it's really quiet.
Gabe, are you still there?
Gabe.
Yes.
Oh.
Finished.